In the world of superheroes, some characters receive so much praise that they seem almost perfect. But is that really the case? Not every superhero deserves the hype they get. Sometimes these characters become repetitive, are only famous because of their powers, or suffer from inconsistent storytelling that makes their popularity questionable. Today we're talking about superheroes who get more credit than they might actually deserve. These are the characters that the media has pushed, that fans have passionately supported, but when you break down their story arcs, depth, and overall impact, it becomes clear that their overrated status is a harsh reality. 1. Dick Grayson, Nightwing. From sidekick to solo hero, Dick Grayson's journey is one of the most well-documented in the DC universe. As the first Robin, he earned his place in comic book history, and when he stepped out of Batman's shadow to become Nightwing, fans praised his independence. His leadership of the Titans and his mix of Batman's discipline with Superman's optimism make him a standout character. However, despite his popularity, some argue that Nightwing is overrated. His solo series has often struggled to give him a strong, defining identity beyond being a lighter version of Batman. While his combat skills and acrobatics are impressive, they don't set him apart in a world full of metahumans with extraordinary abilities. His rogue gallery lacks memorable villains, and many of his storylines feel repetitive. Even after decades of development, he is rarely as compelling on his own as he is within the Bat family. He remains an important figure, but his reputation as one of DC's greatest heroes may be a bit overstated. 2nd, Thor. Few heroes in the Marvel Universe carry the same level of power and prestige as Thor. As the god of thunder, his connection to Norse mythology, immense strength, and legendary weapon Mjolnir make him a force to be reckoned with. He has been at the center of many major Marvel events, from leading Asgard to battling cosmic entities. Yet, for all his strength and status, Thor's character often feels overrated. One of the biggest issues lies in his inconsistent portrayal. Sometimes he's the noble and wise protector of realms, while other times, particularly in the MCU, he's played more for laughs than for depth. This inconsistency weakens his emotional connection with audiences. His solo stories also struggle to maintain long-term engagement, frequently recycling the same battles against gods, monsters, and cosmic threats with minimal character growth. While storylines like Ragnarok and the God Butcher stand out, much of his narrative feels repetitive. Thor's reputation as one of Marvel's greatest heroes seems to rely more on his godly status than on truly compelling storytelling. 3. Victor Stone, Cyborg. Among DC's technologically enhanced heroes, Cyborg stands out as a symbol of human resilience and advanced machinery. His origin, Victor Stone's tragic accident leading to his cybernetic transformation, is undeniably compelling, and his abilities, including technopathy and immense strength, make him a formidable force. His role in the Teen Titans cemented his popularity, showcasing his leadership and emotional depth. However, despite these strengths, Cyborg is often considered overrated. A major reason is DC's forced attempts to push him into a top-tier superhero status. While his presence in the Teen Titans felt natural, his elevation to the Justice League has often seemed more like a corporate move than an organic narrative progression. Unlike characters such as Batman or Superman, who have undergone significant philosophical and emotional growth, Cyborg's arcs remain limited, typically revolving around his struggle with his robotic identity. His solo stories lack lasting impact, and without a strong rogues gallery or deeper conflicts, his character often feels underdeveloped. As a result, while Cyborg is an important figure in DC Comics, his reputation sometimes exceeds his actual storytelling depth. 4. Frank Castle, The Punisher. The Punisher stands out as one of Marvel's most controversial figures, blurring the line between hero and vigilante. Unlike superheroes who fight for justice, Frank Castle operates on a philosophy of pure vengeance, eliminating criminals with lethal efficiency. His origin is undeniably tragic. The brutal murder of his family pushes him into an endless war, but this tragedy also limits his character's growth. Unlike Wolverine or Daredevil, who struggle with moral dilemmas, Frank rarely questions his methods, seeing the world in rigid black and white terms. As a result, many of his stories become repetitive, focusing more on action and extreme violence than meaningful character development. While he has some iconic storylines, his personality remains largely static, making it difficult for writers to explore new depths. His popularity is often driven more by his rebellious persona, military background, and skull emblem than by compelling storytelling. Though he has a dedicated fan base, the excessive praise he receives doesn't always align with his narrative depth, cementing him as one of Marvel's most overrated characters. 5. Jean Grey, Dark Phoenix. Few X-Men characters are as revered as Jean Grey, yet much of her legacy is tied to a single storyline. While she was one of the original X-Men, her character rarely thrives outside of the Phoenix Saga. The moment the Phoenix Force is removed from the equation, Jean often struggles to make a lasting impact. Unlike Wolverine, Storm, or Magneto, who have evolved through decades of storytelling, her arcs tend to repeat the same pattern. She gains immense power, loses control, becomes a cosmic threat, and is either killed or resurrected. Another issue is that Jean's personality often feels secondary to her relationships. Her dynamic with Cyclops and Wolverine tends to overshadow any independent growth, making her feel more like a love interest than a fully realized character. Compared to other telepaths like Professor X and Emma Frost, she lacks the same level of strategic brilliance or moral complexity. While her power is undeniable, it often overshadows meaningful character depth. For a hero with such a high reputation, Jean Grey remains surprisingly underdeveloped outside of her most famous storyline. 6. John Stewart, Green Lantern. Few Green Lanterns have achieved the recognition that John Stewart has, thanks to his memorable portrayal in the Justice League animated series. His military background and composed demeanor make him a compelling figure within the Green Lantern Corps. However, when it comes to the comics, his presence often pales in comparison to Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, and even Guy Gardner. While John has had his share of great moments, he lacks that one defining storyline that truly sets him apart. Hal Jordan has Emerald Twilight. Kyle Rayner has Ion, yet John's most notable arc, Mosaic, is barely referenced in modern storytelling. DC has pushed him into a more prominent role over the years, but despite these efforts, he still feels more like a secondary Green Lantern rather than a leading force. His importance in the Green Lantern mythos is undeniable, but his character development has remained stagnant compared to his peers. Without a strong catalog of consistently impactful stories, his status as a top-tier hero feels more rooted in nostalgia than genuine narrative significance. 7. Bruce Banner, Hulk. Not every powerhouse hero manages to stay consistently engaging, and Hulk is a prime example. While his struggle with rage and dual identity is intriguing, many of his stories rarely explore new ground. The classic conflict Bruce Banner fighting to suppress the Hulk has been told countless times, often without meaningful evolution. Standout arcs like Planet Hulk and World War Hulk prove that the character can shine, but outside of these, his solo runs often feel repetitive. Unlike other Marvel heroes who grow and change, Hulk's character development keeps resetting one day. He's an uncontrollable beast, the next a brilliant strategist, only for the cycle to restart. His limited supporting cast and lack of deep connections outside of the Avengers further weaken his long-term appeal. While his popularity is undeniable, his storytelling depth doesn't always match it, making him feel overrated compared to Marvel's more dynamic heroes. 8. Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. Marvel has pushed Carol Danvers as one of its most important heroes, but her actual impact hasn't always lived up to the promotion. Since taking on the mantle of Captain Marvel, she has been positioned as a leader in major events, wielding immense cosmic power. However, despite her strength and prominence, many fans argue that her stories fail to justify her elevated status. One of the most glaring issues with Carol Danvers is the inconsistency in her characterization at times. She's written as a hardened warrior, while other times she comes off as overly arrogant or detached. Unlike other Marvel legends whose legacies are built on rich, evolving narratives, Carol's rise has often felt more like a corporate decision than a natural progression. Her comic runs have struggled to maintain strong readership, and she lacks a truly defining arc that cements her among Marvel's greatest. Power alone doesn't make a character compelling. And until she is given more consistent and engaging storytelling, Captain Marvel remains one of the most overrated heroes in the Marvel Universe. 9. Wade Wilson, Deadpool. There are few Marvel characters as wildly popular as Deadpool, but his overwhelming presence in comics and media often makes him feel overrated. His signature traits, fourth wall-breaking humor, chaotic energy, and extreme violence, were once refreshing but have since become overused tropes. Rather than evolving as a character, many of his storylines rely on excessive comedy, which overshadows opportunities for deeper storytelling. While arcs like The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly and Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe showcase his potential, much of his recent material lacks real emotional weight. His tendency to joke through every situation makes it difficult for impactful moments to land, reducing his complexity as a character. On top of that, Marvel's aggressive push to feature him in nearly every crossover and spin-off has led to oversaturation, making him feel less special over time. While Deadpool is undeniably entertaining, his repetitive antics and lack of consistent growth prevent him from reaching the same narrative depth as Marvel's most compelling heroes. Jishunta Superman. No superhero embodies the concept of heroism quite like Superman, yet his overwhelming power and moral certainty often make him a difficult character to keep engaging. Unlike heroes who struggle with personal demons or limitations, Superman rarely faces challenges that feel insurmountable, as his abilities place him far above most threats. His best stories, such as All-Star Superman and Kingdom Come, tend to focus on breaking down his mythos rather than expanding it, highlighting how difficult it is to create fresh narratives around him. Many writers resort to external weaknesses like kryptonite or grand moral dilemmas to generate stakes, but these often feel like artificial obstacles rather than organic storytelling. While his unwavering optimism and symbol of hope are admirable, they also make him static compared to more dynamic characters like Batman or Spider-Man, who grow through their hardships. Superman's legendary status is undeniable, but when compared to heroes with more complex arcs, his storytelling impact can sometimes feel overstated. And that wraps up our list of the most overrated superheroes in the Marvel Universe. Now, that doesn't mean these characters are bad. Many of them have great moments and loyal fan bases. But when we look at their storytelling depth, character development, and overall impact, it's clear that some of them get more praise than they might actually deserve. But now, it's your turn. Do you agree with this list, or do you think some of these heroes are actually worthy of their hype? And if you think we missed someone who belongs here, let us know in the comments. Let's get the discussion going. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.